Hello and welcome back to another lecture. In this lecture, we will write our Ansible Playbook to install the Jupyter website on the web servers. An Ansible Playbook is a YAML format file that contains all the commands we want Ansible to run on the web servers to install the Jupyter website. To write our playbook, the first thing I want you to do is open the repository you cloned on your computer in Visual Studio Code. On the left side of my screen, I have opened the Ansible Playbooks repository I cloned on my computer in Visual Studio Code. And on the right side of my screen, these are the commands we ran in the Jupyter project to install our Jupyter website. So all we have to do is convert these commands into YAML format that Ansible understands. To start, I want you to create a file in the repository you cloned on your computer and call the file something like this. I'm going to right-click in this space to create a file in that repository. I'll right-click and click New File. And I'll call the file deploy_jupyter_website.yaml. You can name the file anything you want, but make sure the extension is .yml. Once you've named the file, press Enter. And there you go. We have created the YAML format file we will use to create our Ansible playbook. This is something I want you to note. Ansible works in YAML format and it is .yml. Once you have created the YAML file in your repository, the next thing I want you to do is download the reference file from this video's description and open it. This is the reference file we will use to create the Ansible playbook to install the Jupyter website on the web servers, and it contains all the modules we need to rewrite these commands in YAML format that Ansible understands. So the next thing I want you to do is select everything in this file. To select everything in this file, I'll press Ctrl A, then copy it, then come back to the YAML file you created and paste it in there. Once you've pasted, close the reference file because we don't need it anymore. I'm going to scroll up. Then I'm going to click on the Explorer here to expand this so you can see it better. To create an Ansible playbook, first you start with 3 dashes up here, then you specify the name of the playbook. Please also take note of the indentations. The indentations are very important. So, however I indented in here, make sure your Ansible playbook is also indented the same way. Once you have specified the 3 dashes up here, you start with the name of the playbook, and we are calling this playbook Deploy Jupyter Website. After name, we specify host, and these are the EC2 instances we want to deploy the Jupyter website on. So for the host, we are going to type all. Currently, we have 2 web servers, one in the private app subnet EZ1 and the other in the private app subnet EZ2. These are also the web servers we listed in the inventory file. So when you type all under host, you are telling Ansible you want Ansible to install the Jupyter website on all the web servers you listed in your inventory file. The next property is become, and for become, type yes. After you type yes, the next property is become user, and for become user, type root. So what these 2 property means is we want Ansible to change to the root user. And if you look on our command, the first thing we did is change to root user. Once we change to root user, we will list all the commands we want to run to install the Jupyter website. And in your Ansible playbook, to list all the commands you want to run to install the Jupyter website, first you start with tags. Once you specify tags, under it, you will list all the commands you want Ansible to run to install the Jupyter website. If you look in our playbook, we specify tags, and under it, we list all the commands we want Ansible to run to install the Jupyter website. This is the first command we want Ansible to run, and for that command, we start by listing the name of the command. The name of the command is similar to a description, so we call it update EC2 instance. If you look in our commands here, the next thing we did is update our EC2 instance. So we need to convert this command into a YAML format that Ansible understands. Another important thing I want you to understand is for every command we listed here that will install the Jupyter website on our EC2 instance, to convert them into a YAML format that Ansible understands, you have to use Ansible module. So what I mean about that is, for example, this command will update our EC2 instance. And to convert this command into a format Ansible understands, we have to use the Ansible module to update EC2 instance. The next command uses yum to install the Apache web server on the EC2 instance. And to convert this command into a format Ansible understands, we have to use the Ansible module to install Apache on the EC2 instance. The next command will change directory into the HTML directory. And to convert this command into a format Ansible understands, we have to use the Ansible module to change directory. So basically, what I'm trying to say is, for every command we have listed here, we have to use Ansible module to convert each command into a language Ansible understands. And that's what we are doing here. The first command we want Ansible to run will update the EC2 instance. We have given it a name, and the name is update EC2 instance. The next thing we specify is the Ansible module, and the Ansible module to update our EC2 instance is yum. If you want to write a command in your Ansible playbook and you don't know which Ansible module to use, this is what I recommend you do. Open Google. Once you open Google, for example, I am looking for the Ansible module to update my EC2 instance. So in Google, I'll type Ansible module yum to update EC2 instance. Basically, for any Ansible module you are looking for, I want you to type something like this. Start with Ansible module and type what you are trying to do with it. For example, here we are trying to update our EC2 instance using yum. So we type Ansible module yum to update EC2 instance. If you press enter, under your search results, look for the results that says docs.ansible.com. Then the next thing I want you to do is read the description under the search results. According to this description, it installs, upgrades, downgrades, remove, and lists packages and groups with the yum package manager. I know this is what I'm looking for, so I'm going to select this. And it is going to take you to the latest Ansible documentation. This is the method I use to find any Ansible module in the Ansible documentation. I don't know every Ansible module off the top of my head. So I rely on Google and I'll type something as descriptive as what I am looking for. I recommend that you do the same. So this is the Ansible documentation for yum module to update your EC2 instance. Usually when I come into the documentation, you can see it here. It says yum under requirements. What I will do is I will scroll all the way down. For every Ansible module you use, there will also be perimeters you can list under the module. So for this yum module, these are the perimeters you can list for the yum module. If you don't understand what any of this means, please leave your comments below. But by the time we are done writing our playbook, it will be clear to you. So these are the perimeters we can list under the yum module. So what I always do is I scroll all the way down. In the example, this is what we are looking for. And according to the tags name, this tags will upgrade all packages on our EC2 instance. So what you can do is copy paste this into your code. This is the method I use to find any Ansible module in the Ansible documentation. Let's go back to Visual Studio Code. I'll minimize this. In Visual Studio Code, this is the tags that will update all the packages on our EC2 instance. We've given it a tags name and we called it Update EC2 Instance. The next thing we specify is the Ansible module, and the module we are using is yum. Under yum, we have specified the perimeters for yum we want to use. The perimeter we want to use in our code for yum is name, state, and update catch. So if we go back to the Ansible documentation, we will see under the yum module, there will be perimeter for name, state, and update catch. Let's go back to the Ansible documentation. In the Ansible documentation for yum module, if I scroll up, this is the documentation for the yum module. And under the perimeters, if we look here, we will find a perimeter that says name. These are in alphabetical order. So if I scroll to N, you can see there's a perimeter called name. The next perimeter we listed in our code is state. If I scroll down to S, you can see state is here. And the next one is update catch. So you can see there's a perimeter called update catch. For any Ansible module you use, there will be perimeters for them. And perimeters are different settings you can configure for that module. For every perimeter in the Ansible documentation, there is also a definition explaining what each perimeter is doing. Let's go back to our code. For this task to update the EC2 instance, we are using the yum module. And for the perimeter name, this is the name of the package we want to upgrade. Here, we are upgrading all the package on the EC2 instance. So we are going to type it like this. This is how you specify that you want to upgrade all the packages on your EC2 instance. For the state, we will type latest. This means for every package, we want to get the latest version. For the next perimeter update catch, we will type yes. The next task will install Apache Web Server on our EC2 instance. We've given it a task name and we call it Install Apache Web Server. The Ansible module we are using is yum, and for the yum module, we are using the name perimeter and state perimeter. For the name, this is the name of the package we want to install. So here we will type HTTPD. For the state, this is the version of the package we want to install. We want to install the latest state, so like we did up here, we will type latest here. Once we have installed the Apache Web Server, the next task will change the directory to the HTML directory. And the Ansible module we are using to change directory is shell. So just like we did for the yum module, you can search the shell module in the Ansible documentation. And for the shell, this is the command we want to run. So what we will do is we can copy this command here and paste it here. The next task is going to download the web files from GitHub, and the Ansible module we will use to download the web file is getURL. For the getURL module, the perimeter we are using is URL and destination. The URL perimeter is the address of where we want to download the web files from. This is the address of where we want to download the web files from, so we'll copy this. Make sure you don't copy the wget, just the URL. Copy it and paste it here. Once you've pasted the URL, the next perimeter is destination, and this is the destination of where you want to download the web files to. We will download the web files into our HTML directory. So we'll copy this and paste it here. Make sure you put another / at the end. Once we download the web files from GitHub into the HTML directory, it is going to be a zip folder. So the next task will unzip the zip folder. The Ansible module we will use to unzip the zip folder is Ansible built-in on archive. For the source perimeter, this is the path to the file we want to unzip, and the file is in our HTML directory. So copy this and paste it here. The zip file you are downloading is in my GitHub repository, and when you download the file, the name of the file is going to be jupyter-main.zip. So here type jupyter-main.zip. The next perimeter is destination, and this is where you want to unzip the file to. We are unzipping the file into our HTML directory, so we can copy this and paste it here. The next perimeter is remote source, and this is asking whether the EC2 instance we are unzipping the file on is remote. The EC2 instance is remote, so we'll type yes in here. Once we have unzipped the zip folder, the next task will copy all of our web files out of the unzip folder into the HTML directory. The Ansible module we will use to achieve this is copy. And for the copy module, we are using the source, destination, and remote source perimeter. For the source perimeter, this is where the files we want to copy are located. The files we want to copy are located in our HTML directory in the Jupyter-main folder. Remember, we had a zip folder here, and when we unzip the zip folder, it will be Jupyter-main. So what we can do is copy everything here, copy this without the zip, and paste it here. Once you paste it, add a /. So basically what we are doing here is when you have a zip folder and you unzip it, it usually keeps the name and remove the zip. So we are copying everything in our HTML directory in the Jupyter-main folder. And the destination of where we want to copy it to is we want to copy it into our HTML directory. So here we can copy this destination and paste it here. The next parameter is remote source. Our EC2 is remote. Here we will type yes. Once we have copied all the web files from the Jupyter main directory into the HTML directory, the next thing we will do is clean up. So we will delete the Jupyter main zip folder we downloaded and the unzipped version of it because we don't need it anymore. We have copied all the files out into our HTML directory. The next task will remove the Jupyter main directory. When we say directory, we mean folder. So this next task will remove the Jupyter main folder we unzip. The Ansible module we will use to achieve this is file. And for the path parameter, this is the path to the directory we want to remove. The directory we want to remove is the Jupyter-main directory, so you have to specify the full path to it. The directory we want to remove is here, so I'm going to copy this and paste it here. Make sure when you specify the path, don't enter the /. The next parameter is state, and this is the state we want the directory to be in. To delete the directory, the state will be absent. So here, type absent. Once we have deleted the folder we unzipped, the next task will delete the zip folder we downloaded from GitHub. The Ansible module we will use to achieve this is file, and it is the same as what we use up here. For the path parameter, this is the path to where the zip folder we want to remove is located. The zip folder we want to remove is in the HTML directory, so we can copy this to start, paste it here. And remember, the file is a zip folder, so we'll type .zip at the end. This is the full path to the zip folder we want to remove. This means that the file we want to remove is in the var www html, and the name of the file is jupyter-main.zip. For the state parameter, since we are trying to remove the file, the state will be absent. Once we have removed the zip folder, the next task will start the Apache web server, and the Ansible command to start the Apache web server is Ansible built-in service. The first parameter is enable, and for enable we'll type yes. Just like we did when we ran this command to install the Jupyter website, this means that when we start and stop our EC2 instance, the Apache will always be in the start state. The next parameter is the name of the service we want to start. The service we want to start is Apache, so the name is HTTPD. And the last parameter is state. We are starting the Apache web server, so the state is going to be started. Type started in here. This is all we need to do to write the playbook that will install the Jupyter website on the EC2 instance in the private app subnet EZ1 and private app subnet EZ2. The next thing I want you to do is save this file. I'll scroll back up and I'll click File and click Save All. Once you have saved the file, I'll maximize this. Then the next thing we will do is push the changes to our GitHub repository so we can pull it to our Ansible server. To push the changes to our GitHub repository, select source control here. Then type a message here. We will type created Ansible Playbook. Once you type the message, click the check mark to commit it. Then once you've committed, click Sync Changes to push the changes to your GitHub repository. There you go. We have successfully pushed this playbook to the GitHub repository. Let's check our GitHub repository to make sure that the playbook is there. I'll go to my GitHub repository. In my GitHub account, I'll select my Ansible Playbooks repository. And there you go. In the Ansible Playbooks repository, this is the playbook we wrote. If I select it, you can see our playbook is in here. Once you verify that your playbook is in the GitHub repository, the next thing we need to do is SSH into our Ansible server, and we'll pull the latest update from our GitHub repository into the Ansible server. The next thing I want you to do is SSH into the Ansible server. Once you've SSH into the Ansible server, currently I am in the home directory. If I type pwd, you can see I am in the home directory. And if I type ls to list what is in my home directory, You can see the Ansible Playbooks repository is there. The next thing we need to do is change our directory into the Ansible Playbooks directory. Remember, when you are working with a repository, you need to be in that repository. So we will change our directory into the Ansible Playbooks directory. I'll type cd and the name of the directory I want to change to. Once you type cd and the name of the directory you want to change to, press enter. Now we have changed our directory into the Ansible Playbooks directory. The next thing we need to do is pull the latest update from our GitHub repository into the Ansible Playbooks repository on our Ansible server. To pull the latest update, we will type git pull. Once you type git pull, press enter. And there you go, we have successfully pulled the latest update from our GitHub repository to the Ansible Playbooks repository on our Ansible server. If you look, you will see the deploy Jupyter website.yaml. This is the latest file we created, and that is the file that has been pulled into our GitHub repository. To verify that the file is in our Ansible Playbooks repository, type ls and press enter. And there you go, you can see the deploy Jupyter website.yaml file is in our Ansible Playbooks repository. The next thing I'm going to do is clear the screen. Now that we have the playbook on the Ansible server, we can run the playbook to install the Jupyter website on our web servers. To run the playbook we just created to install the Jupyter website on the web servers, we will type this command. The first command you type is Ansible Playbook. Once you type Ansible Playbook, press space, then the name of the playbook you want to run. The name of the playbook we want to run is deploy Jupyter website. So I'll type the name of the playbook in here. Once you start to type the name of a file in the directory you are currently in, if you press the tab key, it will auto-complete it for you. I'll press the tab key. And there you go, it has auto-completed for me. The name of the Ansible playbook I want to run is deploy Jupyter website.yaml. Once you've typed this full command, Ansible Playbook, and the name of the playbook you want to run, press enter. And there you go, Ansible will run all the tasks in the playbook to install the Jupyter website on the web servers. Ansible has successfully run all the tasks to install the Jupyter website on our web servers. Let's review the results. It ran the playbook on these two servers, which are the servers we listed in our inventory file. And the result is okay. Anytime you run your Ansible playbook and on the output you see the color green, yellow, or purple, it means everything is fine. But if you see the color red, it means something went wrong somewhere. So let's review this play recap. On the play recap, we can see that the output is either green or yellow, which means everything is fine. If I scroll back up, we can see the tags we listed in our playbook. Everything is here. The first task is gathering facts. This is how Ansible identify our EC2 instance. Once it has done that, it updated our EC2 instance, and that was successful. Then the next task is install Apache web server. That was successful. Once it has installed the Apache web server, the next task was to change the directory into the HTML directory, and that was also successful. Once we have changed the directory into the HTML directory, the next task downloaded the file from GitHub, and that was successful. Once we downloaded the web files from GitHub, the next task unzipped the file. That was successful. Once we have unzipped the zip folder, we copied the web files out of the unzipped version into the HTML directory, and that was successful. For these two IPs you are seeing here, these are the IPs of the EC2 instances Ansible ran the tasks on. Once we have moved the web files into the HTML directory, we removed the Jupyter main directory, and that was successful. Once we did that, we also removed the Jupyter-main zip folder. That was successful. And on the last task, we start the Apache web server, and that is also successful. This is how we create an Ansible playbook and run the Ansible playbook on our EC2 instances. The benefit of using Ansible to configure your EC2 instances is, for example, let's say we have 100 EC2 instances we have to install the Jupyter website on. Using Ansible will be more efficient to install the Jupyter website on the EC2 instances as opposed to doing it manually. This is one of the benefits of using Ansible. We have successfully installed the Jupyter website on the EC2 instance in the private app subnet EZ1 and private app subnet EZ2. Remember, these EC2 instances are in the private app subnet, and we can't access them directly yet. So in the next lecture, we will create an application load balancer to be able to access our EC2 instances in the private app subnet. Once we create the application load balancer, we will be able to access our website. If you have any questions on this lecture or there's any part you don't understand, please leave your comments below. Thank you, and I'll see you in the next lecture. Bye.